Today I want to film a VR to the lovely Mixtress Ray, a Ride or Die decks unfair comparisons. It's been really interesting doing this, namely because it's made me realise that I probably like decks that go their own way, are slightly more challenging. I think I pick my tarot decks like I pick my men. I like them unexpected and more challenging than I would have ever realised. The Light Seers kind of is a little bit more easy to understand. I think the Light Seers in this mix is desperately trying to hold its ground and screaming, don't forget the tarot. It's trying to bring the others into reign a little bit in this selection. So we've got the Tarot of the Sweet Twilight, the Light Seers, the Osho Zen and the Dreams of Gaia. Out of these four, it's the Dreams of Gaia that really does go its own way. You've actually got three more major arcana. There are 25 cards in this major arcana here, so it's unfair before we even begin. It's split into four sections, the major arcana. The first section is the zero card, the choice card, which stands alone. And then you've got three sections of 8 cards each. The stages of life cards, the reasons for being cards, and the influences cards. So 8 cards in each of those three sections. So you will see this really is going to be an unfair comparisons, because the Dreams of Gaia can't really sit with the major arcana cards in another tarot, but I'm doing it anyway. So we've got the choice card here, which sits with the Fool card, and I suppose you've got choices there. You've got choices of whether to leap, whether to rush ahead. The Tarot of the Sweet Twilight shows a slightly different non-leaping jester. The question posed there is, who's pulling your strings? Who's making you leap? Are you leaping because you want to? Are you marching to the beat of your own drum? Or is somebody controlling you? Really interesting questions in the Tarot of the Sweet Twilight. Okay, then we've got the Magician. This card talks about being at home wherever you are, having your inner being be your home, so that you don't need external things to feel at home. The power is within you, and it's about being connected to a bigger power than you. I think that element of the Magician, even though these three cards feature the cosmos, it's really more evident in this card. In the Dreams of Gaia, which is just doing its own thing in the corner, you've got the Child card. This is the first card from the stages of life. This is all about innocence, core wounds, inner child, delighting in the moment. And you've got the Maiden in the Dreams of Gaia with the High Priestess card. High Priestess card in the Osho Zen is a bit more playful, I think, than you would normally see. The dolphins represent the playful nature of life. Like, not everything needs to be too serious. The crescent moon connects you with the universe. You've got that connection here as well with the crescent moon going up here, and again you've got the crescent moon here. Twilight talks about championing the underdog, and you can see she's protecting the mice around her neck away from the cat. The Sweet Twilight tends to take different takes on the cards. I found that the really positive cards tend to have a slightly more negative meaning, and the negative cards have a slightly more positive meaning. If you've got the power of the High Priestess, use it to champion the underdog. In the Dreams of Gaia, you've got the idea of the Maiden and beginning to follow your own path and your own dreams, and an understanding that it's not selfish to do that. This is talking now about real independence, adventure. It's about loyalty to friends and to yourself. The dog represents loyalty. It's about taking risks and getting out of your comfort zone. The Osho Zen talks more about creativity. You've got the keyword creativity, abundance, and the energy that flows from the birthing of things that link to creativity. And we've got the Emperor. In the Osho Zen, the Emperor is the rebel, and it talks about breaking chains. The rebel has discovered his own nature. He can make his own rules and build his own empire because he really has embraced his own nature. He's broken the chains of what society thinks of him. His cloak is rainbow coloured because he is living his own truth, basically, which is what an emperor needs to be. You've got a slightly more subdued strength here in the Emperor, in the Light Seers. And we've got a duality in the Emperor in the Sweet Twilight, about being able to see like opposing views. And here the Dreams of Gaia doing its own thing, as the Dreams of Gaia always does. We've got the Mother, which is about nurturing, loving without conditions, emotional intimacy, support, followed by the Father, which is about leadership, authority, protection, responsibility. That sits alongside the Hierophant, which in the Osho Zen is very different. Nothingness in the Osho Zen, and there's nothing in the picture. This card talks about being in the gap, where you've got nothing to hold on to. It's a state of pure potential. It reminds me of that Hindu goddess, oh my gosh, what's her name? The one that rides the crocodile and that is constantly in a state of being broken. I'm going to put the name and a picture on the screen now because I can't remember the name. But that idea of when you're standing in the gap, that's the possibility of pure potential. Anything becomes possible. I love that idea of the Hierophant card being in the gap rather than having something given to you by another teacher. It's a slightly more internal Hierophant. We've got the Lovers now alongside the Crone. I love this Crone card. It reminds me of the Morrigan. You've even got the Crow. You've got the greying, rewilding hair. It's about fearlessness, feminine power, freedom. Love this card. This Osho Zen Lovers card, it talks about different types of love. Lovers' freedom, lovers honouring the uniqueness of somebody and the individuality of another person. The Chariot card is pretty different as well in the Osho Zen. It becomes awareness. It talks about the lifting of the veil actually burning away and allowing you to see things as they really are, which I suppose in a way is where you're at when you take up the reins of the chariot and you sit in the charioteer's seat. You are a lot clearer, you're more focused. You've got a chariot to control. There needs to be a clear picture ahead. In the Sweet Twilight, we have a figure getting in the way of the charioteer. This is typical Sweet Twilight. It's posing the question of who's steering you? Are you steering the chariot, or is somebody else pulling the reins? A little bit like we saw in the Fool card, like who's making you jump? And the Sage in the Dreams of Gaia talks about storytelling, communication, words, knowledge, advice, those sorts of aspects. Strength at 8 in the Osho Zen and in the Light Seers. Justice is at 8 in the Sweet Twilight. We've got Death and Rebirth, which I think is a fantastic card. Shows a snake wrapped around a cosmic egg with a baby in there. And it's about shedding your skin and the dark night of the soul and letting go of the past. I absolutely love the Strength card in the Osho Zen, which is repackaged as courage. It's about facing your challenges and grow and having a passion for life that can survive any darkness, like this plant growing through. I just love that courage card. Hermit in the Sweet Twilight links it to journaling and writing down ideas down in solitude. I love the Hermit card in the Light Seers. In the Osho Zen, it talks about aloneness, being lonely, or are you enjoying the freedom that solitude brings? So aloneness or loneliness, two different things. Knowledge in the Dreams of Gaia. This is the first card of the reasons for being. So we had our 8 life stages cards, which ended with death and rebirth. Now we're in our reasons for being cards. The first one of these is knowledge, about learning, lifelong study, books and information in books. So that kind of links with this Hermit card over here, about going into solitude and writing things down and going to books. After knowledge, and next reason for being is wisdom. So we've taken that knowledge now and we've actually become wise. We're learning from our mistakes. We're learning from actual life and experience. We've gone beyond book knowledge here. The wheel in the other 3 decks are very similar actually. You've got symbols around all of them, which I love to see. And we've got strength at 11 and justice and breakthrough at 11. In these 2 decks, we've got healing in the Dreams of Gaia. It talks about the fact that to be human is to be wounded, and part of our path is to find ways to heal. I love this card in the Dreams of Gaia. The Osho Zen is very different with breakthrough instead of justice. Point in life where enough is enough and that you just need to break patterns and to bring justice to yourself. Let's just not leave this strength card in the Sweet Twilight without seeing the baby Yoda at the bottom, which is just amazing. And we've got the Hanged Man now. The Osho Zen Hanged Man is one of my all-time favourite. It uses sacred geometry to show that this figure is being reborn. Through the sacred geometry, you can see all the possibilities open to reinvent and transform and heal, just like in the typical Hanged Man, where you're taking time out to view things from different perspectives. This is almost like the moment when you've stepped down from the tree and you've weighed it all up. You've got a figure crawling here and the roots growing up and wings beginning to form. It's almost like saying, I've weighed up all the options, I've seen all the possibilities, and now I'm going to grow my wings and fly. I just love this butterfly moment in the Osho Zen, and it's kind of mirrored here with the butterfly moment in the Sweet Twilight. You've got the hanged figure in the tree trying to catch the butterflies, but this figure has been let down. It's almost like this figure is about to become this figure, because this figure has realised that you can't become beauty by trying to capture it. And talking about love, you've got a reason for being card in the Dreams of Gaia is love. It talks about all forms of love and self-love, and the body as a temple, and confidence and a love for life and passion. Then we come to the Death card, and oh my goodness, the Sweet Twilight Death card is my all-time favourite death card, where death is depicted as your lover that will pick you up and carry you and shield you from the sun when you can go no further. In the Dreams of Gaia, your card 13 is union, totally doing its own thing again, which it just will, which is about wholeness, alignment, harmony of mind, body and soul. You've got duality and union in this card. Then we've got card 14, which is Temperance. It's integration in the Osho Zen. I love this angel with the paint pot here. The Self card here is about identity and self-realization and self-acceptance of who you are and being centered in who you really are. This card in the Osho Zen conditioning Oh, I absolutely love it. It talks about a lion that has been brought up by sheep, and it thought it was a sheep for its whole life until another lion captured it and took it to a pond to see its reflection. It reminds me of the ugly duckling story, and that it was only then that the lion realised it wasn't a sheep at all, it was a lion. And it asks you to question the story that you carry around in your head. Who put that story there? Is it yours? If it isn't, you might have been conditioned. So pick up your own pen to write your own story and question the stories that you carry with you. I also think this is the sexiest devil ever. This is one of the creepiest devils. This gives me cold chills every time. And then the abundance card, feeling of contentment and being relaxed and being generous and being grateful and trusting in abundance. And we've got the tarot card. I love this tarot card in the Sweet Twilight. It basically says if the shit has hit the fan, you may as well pull up a seat and enjoy the show. And you've got a girl in bunny ears with her teddy watching the tarot burn. I think it kind of speaks of just acceptance to move on. The tarot card in the Osho Zen shows, again, a little bit like the girl in the bunny ears, a background figure meditating, and about that detachment from disaster and just being able to say, okay, so this is happening, and that acceptance. So these two kind of have similarities. I love the nature element of the tarot card in the Light Seers. And in the Dreams of Gaia, we've got our last reason for being card, which is destiny, which is about your purpose, your life purpose, your meaning, discovering your talents and becoming whole. So now we're on to the last 8 cards of the Dreams of Gaia majors, and these are the influences on your life. And we start with a journey card, which is about the influences of your past, the past paths that you've walked up. So you've got a dark one and a light one, and this figure is half dark, half light. You know, your past influences you, and you need to understand that, but to learn from your journey so that you can claim the day that you're in. And the star card in these decks, it looks more like the moon card in the Osho Zen, but it does talk about not the moon in the card but the starry night, and to seek silence in a starry night for healing. Then we've got the moon card. The moon card in the Osho Zen is quite odd, really. You've got a past lives card. So you've got the shape of female genitalia here, which says to it becomes a cosmic mother, the opening onto our past lives or our ancestors. This is all about understanding karmic patterns in life. The lizards are knowing and not knowing, and they're the guardians of the unconscious. Now this is a wake-up call to be aware that there are things going on and karmic repercussions in past lives that you might not be aware of. And isn't that what the moon card is all about? It's about uncertainty and things that we may not be aware of. In the Dreams of Gaia, we have got thought, which is about watching where your thoughts go, not to overthink, not to get caught in rumination. I love the underwater element of the Light Seers card. And again, we've got this offering up to the moon in the Sweet Twilight, which it's just lovely. The Sun card in the Sweet Twilight, you've got the fact that the soul shines out through the eyes, and you've got different eyes. Some eyes are sad, some are troubled, some are a lot more gentle. It's all the way through the Light Seers is hanging on, trying to give us that normal meaning. In the Osho Zen, you've got an innocence card, which is beautiful. It shows an old man with childlike delight, loving a childlike experience. And it's that happiness that comes from just being in the moment. And then we've got the emotions card, feeling your emotions. Your emotions influence you. but not to run from emotions, but to fully feel what you need to feel. Desire is the next card. What do you want? What are your expectations? What are your wishful thinkings? What's your selfishness? Judgment is a lot more traditional in the Sweet Twilight. And then we've got the world. You've got completion here in this world card, that completion of the cycle. You've got perception here in the Dreams of Gaia, which is all about clarity and the higher ground and knowing the facts and questioning if you do have the facts. Now, we're on to the minors for the other three, but we've got the last three extra majors, the last three influence cards from the Dreams of Gaia. You've got intuition, which is about patterns and mystery and magic and trusting your own ability to recognize patterns and magic. You've got integrity, which is all about honesty and valor and morals. And then you've got faith, your self-belief, your own confidence. So faith in yourself as well as faith in a divine connection. So the Ace all talks about manifesting and connecting to a source energy for creative powers. Got the Two of Wands. I love the Two of Wands in the Sweet Twilight because it basically says, what are you worrying for? Because all paths lead to death anyway, which cracks me up. And I love the eagle viewpoint of possibilities in the Osho Zen. Basically, the eagle viewpoint, it sees the whole land, the whole picture, and it's got the viewpoint of all possibilities before you plan. The Dreams of Gaia talks more about partnership and power struggle in its Two of Wands. The Three of Wands talks about stepping out of your comfort zone and paying attention to detail in order to do that. In the Osho Zen, it talks about experiencing things like really living in the moment and really like connecting, say, with a tree rather than just walking past it. Then you've got the celebration of the Four of Wands in the Light Seers, a lot more traditional. I love the Osho Zen Four of Wands. It talks about each figure viewed from above becoming a petal of a mandala flower, and one hand is turned palm up, hand is turned palm down on each figure, and it represents giving and receiving, and the four people coming together become more beautiful and become a flower rather than trying to do things alone. So I love this idea of participation in the Osho Zen. Here we see a perfect example of the Sweet Twilight taking a traditionally really positive card and twisting it a little bit. So here we've got the fact that they both really need a rest, that they've had enough, and sometimes you just need to take time out to rest. And in the Dreams of Gaia, you've got a Four of Wands, which talks more about focus. The Five of Wands here, you've got the idea of competition, you've got working together. You've got that idea here of totality where you have to totally trust on a team and work together, otherwise it is not going to work at all. The Five of Wands in the Dreams of Gaia takes this idea of competition and takes it a step further and pushes it into bullying and aggression. The Six of Wands here in the Sweet Twilight, again, you see a positive card, which is normally about victory or success, ticker tape parade. Turned a little bit with the fact that it's talking about, okay, so you had the success, but now you've got the sudden realization that it's all over, the success is finished, and now what? And you've got a figure crying. In the Dreams of Gaia, you've got the idea of compromise and mediation and discussion needing to happen first before you can get to success. Seven of Wands, you've got the idea of standing your ground to protect yourself, with the slightly more sedate, putting up energetic boundaries to protect yourself in the light seers. Here you've the Osho Zen cracks me up here, because you've got a one-man band on a bubble with a monkey about to burst the bubble, and the keyword is stress. And basically it's asking you the question of, who the hell do you think you are? You're not that important that you need to do it all yourself. And if you think that you're that important, then somebody is going to come along and burst your bubble. You don't need to do it all yourself. In the Dreams of Gaia, you've got a woman with a scrying bowl, and this is about signs and awareness, trusting yourself, looking for coincidences, being observant and aware. It's a more magical aspect of protecting yourself here. The Eight of Wands, which is normally our movement card. In the Osho Zen, you've got a tiny little figure here. The Osho Zen talks about travelling. It's not the destination of where you're going or how fast you get there. It's about appreciating the journey, which I love. In the Eight, in the Dreams of Gaia, you've got the idea of transformation through action. In the Nine here, you've got the idea of ease and simplicity of attainment. So not making things complicated, just focusing, say, on one flower and making things simple. Very different to the Nine of Wands in the Osho Zen, which talks about exhaustion. You have used up all your life energy by fueling this enormous and ridiculous machine of self-importance and productivity. You've tried so hard to keep it all together that you're exhausted. This, I think, needs to be my card for 2022, to remind myself to move from this to this. This is going to be my life path for 2022. In the Sweet Twilight, you've got a figure here walking away from the boundaries as well, giving herself a pat on the back for having defended it. But we're going to move on now. We're not going to exhaust ourselves. And the Ten of Wands, which is normally about burden and being overburdened. Here in the Light Seers, you've got a woman giving her burden to somebody else to help her carry, which is beautiful. In the Sweet Twilight, you've got the idea of, it's hard enough to control yourself. Why are you trying to control everybody around you as well? Again, you've got that puppet and strings imagery again there. In the Osho Zen, we can see we are quite literally all tied up in knots by giving up our own power over and over and over again. Pent up energy that is about to explode like volcanic cracks, and not to tie yourself up in knots with your energy. The Dreams of Gaia again also talks about energy, but a free flow of energy, about taking command of yourself and letting your energy flow. It's about self-mastery, discipline and enlightenment in the Dreams of Gaia. Then we have the Page of Wands, playfulness in the Osho Zen. We've got explosive creativity. The Knight is all about charisma and passion and about dream pursuing. In the Osho Zen, it's even taken on the figure, the shape of an arrow. It's about the hero going after what you want, being the saviour, the activist, selflessness. The Queen of Wands as well in the Sweet Twilight, it talks about vibrant, energetic energy and being confident. But what if you don't have a party to go to and nobody to tell you you're great? Are you still going to be confident then? Which, again, it just shows the Sweet Twilight doing its thing, taking a positive card and kind of distorting it a bit. Not so sure about the Queen of Wands in the Osho Zen. I agree with Lisa Pepez. This looks more like the Queen of Pentacles to me. And then we've got the King, which is about a charismatic, creative being. In the Sweet Twilight, it talks about unsheathing your own sword and making sure your thoughts are your own. I love the crows in the Light Seers. This is a really unfortunate card in the Osho Zen, because you've got schizophrenia as the key word, which I don't think would happen so much now, which is an unfortunate depiction of being caught between a rock and a hard place and being in two minds. Like, do you let go of your arms first or your feet? And then realizing that you've got to let go of both together. But not a great key word. It really does need changing. And you've got that duality in the Dreams of Gaia there as well. I love this Three of Swords in the Sweet Twilight. It's about that your hand being on the dagger that pierces your heart, and that's how I read the 3. The 2 is about knowing you've got a decision to make. The 3 is about that heartbreaking decision where you realise you've got to do the hard thing. Osho Zen talks about the isolation of that feeling. Dreams of Gaia is doing its own thing again and talking about learning and knowledge again. The 4, you've got the rest needed here depicted in the Sweet Twilight. You've got a nest here. You've got postponement for the 4 of Swords in the Osho Zen, which is about knowing that you want to go into the colourful landscape, but realising you're not quite ready for it yet and postponing it. Oh, this is such a Harry Potter card for me. Harry Potter and Crumb had a love child, it would be this person in this card, I think. This talks about the nature of time, organisation, time management, budgeting, completely doing its own thing again. The 5 of Swords talks about the idea that if you let go of your moral line, even a tiny step at a time, you'll eventually wear the mask of an evil person. I love that idea of that slow dripping away of your moral compass. I also love the Osho Zen using the word comparison for the 5 of Swords. That competition and that element and that feeling unworthy often comes via comparison. In the Dreams of Gaia, that idea of authenticity, are you wearing a mask? Are you being your true authentic self? The 6 of Swords, the Journey card, I love this depiction. This asks the question of why would you let somebody else carry you if you had wings to fly? Have you forgotten your own wings? I just love that card. I also love the crows in this 6 of Swords. This 6 of Swords talks about the burden, and it again questions, why are you walking somebody else's journey for them and carrying them? You need to be walking your own journey after your own dreams, rather than being weighed down by some sort of fall on your shoulders with a chicken on their head, which I love that. And it kind of marries up with the Dreams of Gaia, which talks about personal power, weighing up the pros and the cons, knowing that it's not black and white thinking. You've got lots of different options and being able to take the correct path. Again, great advice if you're going on a journey. 7 of Swords, you might build a wall to keep out the thieves and the troubles of life, but this card asks you to question, are you wasting your whole life though maintaining the wall? That isn't living either. The 7 of Swords, you've got a slightly more traditional depiction. You've got a politics card in the Osho Zen, which is brilliant, which is about the snake shedding its skin and slimy characters. The 7 of Swords in the Dreams of Gaia also talks surprisingly about politics and religion. It's kind of like a Hierophant card, this, and it talks about indoctrination and making sure that whatever teachings you're following, it talks about moderation and kindness within those teachings. Osho Zen talks about the anxiety brought about by guilt and that shame, and how that can be so destructive, and to beware of it. The Dreams of Gaia talks about cause and effect, and that if you're going to do something, it will have an effect. The 9 of Swords talks about sorrow in the Osho Zen. It talks about creativity in the Dreams of Gaia, open to all possibilities and creating and fantasying, your mind whirling with beauty and creativity. Again, doing its own thing totally. I love this Ten of Swords, which really talks about liberation and the opportunity to walk away after being stabbed in the back. The Page of Swords talks about your mind being too full and not filling up your mind till you're literally can't think straight. It talks about that search for knowledge and truth, the dangers that if you go on a quest for the truth, sometimes you forget the people you're leaving behind because nothing else matters except that quest. And again, you see that here. Often the person being left behind when the Knight of Swords goes off on a mission is the very person that gets hurt. We've got a very violent Knight of Swords in the Osho Zen, and the Queen of Swords in the Osho Zen talks about morality and becoming like a prune if you are so unbending with the truth. King of Swords in the Light Seers is gorgeous. We'll just leave it at that. Absolutely gorgeous. We've got a very controlling King of Swords here. I love this going with the flow of this Ace of Cups here, and I love the fact that the Two of Cups is depicted by the trees and friendliness, and the fact that the yellow tree and the pink tree still retain a little bit of themselves, but they merge to become orange. You've got the colours merging there as well, which I love, and you've got a brilliant date scene there in the sweet twilight. The Three of Cups talks about celebration here, or hanging around with good friends and chilling out with friends. The Three of Cups is more about satisfaction and taking pleasure in your successes and successes flowing to you. I love this Four of Cups in the Dream of Gaia. You've got a guy with a really scarred face looking in a mirror, and the message is, don't look at the scars, don't look at what you don't have, look at what you do have. It's about self-love. In the Osho Zen, it's more about putting a distance between you and your thoughts and being able to observe them from a distance. So that idea of meditating to make sure that your thoughts aren't tripping you off. You've got the fish coming in the Dreams of Gaia. If you sit in your emotion and feel the loss, that's the way to begin to realise you're not alone, and the sunbeams can come down to you. In the Osho Zen, it talks about clinging to your past, and this woman's dress is becoming threadbare and patched because she can't see her present day. Even though her head is inside a champagne goblet, she's got this boxed in thinking of the trauma of her past. She's got all of this amazing sparkles around her, and yet she's wearing patches. It's about not getting boxed in those repetitive thoughts. The Six of Cups is very different in the Sweet Twilight. It talks about stepping outside of your social conditioning, and that helps you to make friends with people you thought you never would make friends with before. More traditional here. The Dreams of Gaia talks about gentle determination, boundaries, and walking away from things that don't serve you from the past, but being kind about it. This card, the Dream, my gosh, this looks like an ex-boyfriend of mine, and it makes me laugh because the message is, don't let nostalgic thinking blind you to what it really was like. And boy, is that not ever true. Projecting our stories onto the people around us, or looking clearly at what you do want. Is it a dream, or do you really want it? So becoming clear and going with the flow in the Dreams of Gaia. The Eight of Cups, which is one of my favourite cards. I love this one, which is about letting go. Just let it go, and the drop becomes part of the bigger ocean then. The Sweet Twilight talks about walking away, but how hard and painful that is when you still feel connected. Dreams of Gaia talks about happiness and joy and a free flow of energy. I suppose we only get that from walking away. Oh, the Nine of Cups in the Sweet Twilight is one of my all-time favourite cards. It talks about that sometimes when you hit rock bottom and you're absolutely overwhelmed by your emotions, the only way is up. So you have everything then to win. And the fact that she's beckoning in a swan to come and help her is just, I just love that. The Osho Zen talks about being laziness, and yeah, this guy is by the pool, he's got his slippers on, he's got a drink, he's got everything going for him, but don't get complacent, because look, the cracks are beginning to form. And similar really in the Dreams of Gaia, you've got that idea of being submerged by your emotions, and that moment where enlightenment comes in to free you from your emotions and help you understand them more. More traditional here, more to do with dating here, there's harmony here, and this is about having divine connection and having boundaries in place, like having a hard shell when you need it. Then we've got the Page of Cups, romantic, when pigs fly is all I ever think about with that. We've got the understanding that the cage bars were never really there. Are you caging yourself in? Typical romantic card there. You've got trust there. I'm trying not to get too cynical on these. We've got the idea of being wooed through words here. We've got the counsellor for emotions in the Dreams of Gaia. We've got that idea of receptivity and the empath of the Queen of Water or the Queen of Cups. But the Sweet Twilight says, yeah, but are you getting vain? Again, it twists that card. The King of Cups, the stable, energetic king that comes with healing in its heart, the King of Water. The Sweet Twilight says it's a king that has only got to that place through experiences and things he's learned. So you've got a king that is a tower of books. And finally, you've got the Pentacles. You've got the Two of Pentacles, that idea of balancing, of staying in the moment to keep your balance, of juggling things to keep your balance, working together, finding an equal partner, working with divine intervention, asking for guidance when you need it, and that commitment of in your work of trusting that plans will come to fruition. The Four in the Dreams of Gaia talks about steady progress, one brick at a time. You've got a slightly more clingy need for security here. This card, the Miser, I hadn't realised that the word the Miser was viewed as anti-Semitic, and I hadn't realised that. It's only recently in the last few months that that's been brought to my attention. So this card is problematic in the Osho Zen, which is a real shame. I love the fact that you've got van life depicted in a VW van. You know, these people might look like they don't have a lot of wealth to some people, but other people, me included, think that this lifestyle is the best. You've got locks that appear locked, but they're not really if you just look. And in the Dreams of Gaia, you've got that idea of a trickster. So just to be careful of your perception of things, to look closely. In the Six, you've got the idea of giving and receiving as flip sides of the same coin, with a figure that's split in half. In the Seven, we've got that idea of patience. You've got a band depicting that idea in the Sweet Twilight, and it asks you to just wait and watch and listen to the rehearsals and make sure that that melody is what you want. In the Eight, you've got the idea of magic being found in the ordinary moments of life, and you may have worked really hard to get a skill, but what next? Are you getting bored? Don't get bored. In the 9, you've got that idea of abundance. You've got it depicted as being on top of the world and a cat woman. In the sweet Twilight, you've got way more traditional in the light Seers. That idea of ripe fruit dropping from the tree by itself in its ripeness. Own home here and legacy here. Here you've got we are the world and the world as a home, so more of a global home. And finally, you've got the Pentacles court cards, which I love this one, that slow plodding into adventure, which I love. The Knight of Pentacles here talks about that really dependent nature, but are you getting bored? Is the call for adventure beckoning you? So it's kind of a warning in this Knight. Here the Knight's walking with his horse rather than riding it, so that slow plodding nature. It's really depicted as slow as you can get with a turtle, and the keyword slowing down. Then you've got the Queen of Pentacles in all of them. The King, again, the charismatic king in the sweet Twilight is depicted as somebody that can be charismatic if he wants to give you attention, but the person being left out isn't going to feel great about that. So again, it takes the positive aspect of a card and twists it a little bit. You've got abundance in the Osho Zen. You've got a really earthy King of Earth here, and a very, very sexy King of Pentacles with his dog in his library. How lovely, in the Light Seers. So here are the backs. I think this is the longest video I've ever done. I didn't want to talk as much, but there you go, I did. There are the backs. Thank you to Mistress Ray. I'll leave all her links below, and I'll see you next time. Bye.